Joining us to expand the conversation is oil and gas expert Dr. Wisdom Enang. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Wisdom.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the program.
All right, Dr. Wisdom. A lot is happening in the oil and gas sector, from accusation of importation of substandard products, and also we have the issue of oil theft. What's your take on all these issues happening in the oil and gas sector?
Thank you. I think it tells me there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I like to look at things, from the perspective of half full and half empty. A lot of work has been done, but there are still a lot of gaps. And you've mentioned two critical issues, and I'm going to just go through them in about a minute and a half. The first is, when it comes to oil theft, there's been improved levels of security, because of course we've now gotten the host community, the militia groups, or the groups of security around the area involved in the security themselves. And so there's improved security. But what can we do better is to leverage on the host community provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act to get the host community involved. There are those provisions, but how well are the various companies implementing them? Because if the host community fund, for example, is being set aside, and the community feels that they are not only being mandated to receive these funds for development purposes, but they are also receiving them in reality, they are bound to contribute better to make sure that this oil theft doesn't take place. Oil theft takes place in the first instance when the community collaborates with these perpetrators, because they feel that the advantages of doing so far outweighs the disadvantages to them. Now, when you talk about oil theft again, we need to be systematic about the deployment of our systems. So I always call on a PDRR method, a predict, detect, respond, and recover. The prediction method has to do with the use of equipment, has to do with the use of technology to ensure that you have a first-hand information and that you're able to tell when there's an intrusion in your pipeline systems. Your detect is that you're currently always monitoring those parameters from the prediction to detect it on time. And then your respond and recover is when you feed that forward, and then there is a respond and recover from the security agencies, which also brings me to the three different barriers that I feel is going to come together for this to work. The equipment barrier, which is your technology; the process barrier, which is the protocol of how you integrate this technology with the human processes, and of course the human barrier, which is the most important thing to make this whole work. When you talk about the importation of substandard product, we've learned our lessons, but two things continue to militate against our success. The first of it is the fact that we are the regulators, MDPRA, are currently not using their own laboratory. They're currently using an external laboratory, which means you cannot take ownership, which means there's very little room for innovation. By that I mean you're able to do a lot more tests, and you're able to understand the level of sort of quality of fuel coming into our country, and the patterns that the so-called companies that perpetuate this, bringing in the bad fuel, do indulge in. I'll give you an example. In 2022, between January and February, we had very high levels of methanol in the fuel that was imported, the PMS that was imported at the time. And then further investigation did disclose that we do a comprehensive test. In fact, we did a comprehensive test on that inventory. However, what was missing was the fact that we do not do methanol tests. And so the people that perpetrated this crime, I would say, indulged in blending very high levels of methanol into the fuel because they knew it was going to be undetected. And that brings me to the comprehensiveness of the test. If we don't take ownership from a regulatory standpoint and have our own laboratories, how do we ensure that we're always adding the right elements to be tested, and that it is comprehensive enough, and it is done in a way that reinforces confidence in the minds of the average Nigerians and consumers.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And now this brings us back to the monies that has been expended on the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery. Now, the Senate is about to probe the $1.5 billion that has been expended on the turnaround maintenance of this refinery, so we can curb these instances that you have mentioned. Now, besides sabotage, mismanagement, and misappropriation, Dr. Wisdom, do you think that lack of expertise and technical know-how is also a problem when it comes to this turnaround maintenance?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think it's a combination of several factors, but if you're asking me which of the factors is very important, I think I would say the first is, yes, the lack of expertise is a key one there, but I think just having the environment where there is a very high potential for conflict of interest. Why do I say so? Why on earth will somebody saddled with the operations of that refinery be promoted for producing zero liters of any refined product at all from the barrels of crude there? And they're still getting promoted beyond all the way through the management chain, all the way to director. That's the thing. So when you do not have punitive actions for inefficiency, where you do not have any real, targets that will drive that sort of performance, the key performance indicators, when there are no clear actions against anybody that is perpetuating any sabotage of any form, whether it be in the guise of not having, the right expertise, or the pretending because, just doing sabotaging the entire operations of the refinery is going to be beneficial commercially for them to award those contracts to their cronies. When there is no name and shame, I think this is all going to continue. So I think we have to reform the way that we actually tackle the administrating of the refinery itself. And it's only recently that we began to get the experts in to work, some of the experts that have done refineries in Netherlands and all over the world, to be able to tell us exactly what we need to do so we get it right. The turnaround maintenance is also very much occasioned by the fact that we are not giving that refinery the right level of crude in the past. So what happened is a lot of that refinery wasn't getting the right quantity of crude, and when you're operating below the level, the minimum level of throughput that you need to be operating that refinery at, you now risk having a situation where there's vibrations in the refinery, and that refinery is getting back into time, because you always have to maintain, when there's a high vibration, the level of breakdown is very high. You have to maintain. So it's a combination of many factors. But of course, sabotage is very high there. The fact that we're not having a right environment that would disincentivize conflict of interest is very high up there. And the fact that we need to get our operational parameters right, give the right level of crude right. By now, we need to be happening on the supply situation to make sure that when this refinery then starts up again, that we do not have the same conditions that led to the breakdown and the frequent times.
All right, Dr. Wisdom, at a time that we are looking at ramping up production, what do you make of these issues? Do you see it as a setback to the system?
I mean, I see it as a room for improvement. I think we've done things bad in the past. Yes, it's apt that we boost our production of crude, because, I mean, in light of the fact of the several factors that I'm going to mention. Number one is the fact that the JV and the production sharing contracts, JV is a joint venture, that those contracts already have a share of our nation's production going to the various partners like the IOCs and the NOCs. And then when you come and look at the net position of Nigeria's crude, you find out that we also still having 55% of that going to forward contracts, forward sales agreement based on reserved back loans, crude reserve back loans. That means our loan repayments are taking another 55%. And then we still have to sell to get dollars. And then, of course, we still need to give it to domestic supply obligations to the local refineries. So there's actually need for us to boost our production, and we can do that by eliminating, or reducing to the barest minimum crude oil theft. That would get us back some volumes. because it would allow us to flow certain lines that are currently short because of the potential for bunkering to go on those lines. And it will also allow us to not lose volumes. Then, of course, we would be intensifying our energy into making sure that we improve some of those facilities that are down on reliability concerns. Because a lot of those facilities are about 50 years old. The down reliability efforts need to come in to get those facilities back up so we can flow those lines. We need to actually, get our efforts concentrated on improving the, increasing the well efficiency. When our wells are getting older, they lose that pressure that naturally pushes the crude up. So we need to start having primary interventions in those wells, like gas lift and gas injections to get those wells back up. And then finally, the Petroleum Industry Act allocates certain percentage, I think about 3% of the NNPC's profit towards operating costs towards exploration of new frontiers. And I think I haven't heard anything about that. So I think questions need to start being asked. How well are we exploring the new frontiers? Because I can tell you for certain that all the wells that we're currently operating on today and planning on are wells that were explored and discovered between the 1960s and the 1980s. We need to do a lot more because we can add more to our net volumes, our available volumes, and also begin to explore and produce more of our wells.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. You did talk about the KPI, the key performance indicators, and the fact that none has been able to hold responsible those that are sabotaging the effort of this turnaround maintenance in the Port Harcourt refinery. And I think that has also emboldened those who are handling this procedure. But in your opinion, do you think licensing of modular refineries will up our production quota?
Absolutely.
In the meantime.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello. Thank you very much. Licensing of modular refineries is one of the very good answers. But I'm going to tell you, we have to do a lot more than licensing.
Okay.
I tell you what, a lot of the licenses, if you look at the list of licenses for refinery setup that was given, only about maybe 18% of those have been operationalized, and less than about 7% are currently at the point where they're at least refining crude. Why is that the case? A lot of these licenses were obtained at the time where the market was not deregulated, and so supplying to the domestic market means you needed to apply subsidy of some form. Now the question is, how were the current existing refineries like the Walter Smith surviving? They didn't really have a problem because one, they were optimized to produce more of diesel, which of course had never had subsidy on it. And secondly, when you talk about the feedstock, they actually have an upstream section that is giving them feedstock. So feedstock and the domestic market pricing was the two concerns. Now that we are fixing those concerns, I think the government needs to go back and put some icing on the cake and tell people that actually have these licenses, okay, you've had these licenses, you've not been able to use it previously because you had issues with the feedstock availability, you had issues with the the pricing in the domestic market. We fix this, we can give you some tax holidays. We want you, provided you can start operating this license and begin to build and plan your refineries within the next 18 months. I think this is what we need to do. But the licenses are out there, but for the reasons I said to you, they've been dormant. But now we're having the federal government give out mandates that the crude domestically be sold in Naira at the prevalent rate. I think these are all icing on the cake. And so we need to go talk to the license owners and see what we can further do to jumpstart them. And I say this for reasons. A lot of them obtained the licenses, they got financiers, the financiers did their maths and the economics and they lost interest. So for you to go back and put it on a competitive basis, you need to do a lot more than just giving licenses. Okay,
thank you very much, Dr. Wisdom Enang. We do appreciate your time on the Niger Delta program and for specifics, sharing your expert opinion on this issue. Thank you so very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it.
Do have a great day, sir.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wisdom. Okay, we're moving on to other issues now, finally. Yeah, always. Let's call it a wrap for today.
Okay, if you say so.
Well, that's the size of our package for today. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting package. My name is Sifon Ode.
And I am Averus Wagene Ebo. Do enjoy your weekend.
All right.